about half an hour, I think.
មកចឹងយើងក៏ទុកឱកាសឲ្យយើងសួរជាសំណួរតែថាព្រឹកមិញក៏យើងមានទេតិចដែរបាទអត់ទុកឱកាសអរបាទសូមអរគុណលោកកែវ៉ៃខ្ញុំមានខ្ញុំបានចូលរួមការបង្ហាញរបស់លោកខ្ញុំមានសំណួរពីរពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងច្បាប់អន្តរជាតិទីមួយខ្ញុំពាក់ព័ន្ធនិយាយពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងប្រភពនៃច្បាប់អន្តរជាតិដែលលោកបានលើកខ្លួនមួយហៅថា customary law ខ្ញុំចង់សួរថា customary law មានលក្ខណៈជា binding ដែរឬទេហើយសំណួរទី2ពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងកាតព្វកិច្ចរបស់រដ្ឋជាភាគីនៃសញ្ញាណាមួយបាទយើងឃើញថាពីច្រើនពេលដែលរដ្ឋក៏បានផ្ដល់សេចក្ដីបានទៅលើសញ្ញាណាមួយគាត់នឹងមានកាតព្វកិច្ចអនុវត្តតាមសញ្ញានោះតាមរយៈការធ្វើកំណែទម្រង់ច្បាប់ឬក៏ប្រព័ន្ធរដ្ឋបាលណាមួយដើម្បីឲ្យចោលខ្ញុំចង់សួរសំណួរថាតើយើងមានយន្តការណាមួយដើម្បីខ្ញុំគិតថាមិនដល់ការផ្ដល់ជាទូទេព្រោះរដ្ឋយើងមានយ៉ាងណាការអកប្បកិច្ចរបស់រដ្ឋទូរនីតិរបស់រដ្ឋចឹងយើងអាចផ្ដល់ជាទូរដ្ឋនោះបានតើយើងមានយន្តការណាមួយដើម្បីមើលថាតើរដ្ឋហ្នឹងគាត់បានបំពេញកាតព្វកិច្ចទៅនឹងកាតព្វកិច្ចដែលមានចែងនៅក្នុងប្រតិញ្ញាណដែរទេតើមួយទៀតសំណួរមួយទៀតតើបើយើងគិតពីស្ថាប័នរបស់ UN Body ណាពីស្ថាប័នរបស់អង្គការអន្តរជាតិណាតើអង្គការអន្តរជាតិនឹងមានយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រការបែបណាទៅលើរដ្ឋមួយហ្នឹងពេលដែលរដ្ឋនឹងមិនអនុវត្តច្បាប់អន្តរជាតិសូមអរគុណ
Okay, that should keep us busy for a little while. The first question was about customary international law. This morning I made the point that in the area of migration, there is actually a lot of customary law. For example, the basic rule, the most important underlying principle that states can regulate people who come into their territory is a rule of customary law. Who does it bind? Well, it binds all states, and it even binds states who are newly independent states. So, I mean, this might, Cambodia became independent, 1952. Even states that are newly created are born into a world where there is existing customary law and they are bound by it. With one exception, and it happens very rarely, there are rules of customary law that you can opt out of if you object to the rule while the rule is being formed. This doesn't really apply in the context of migration. But there are some other situations where there's a new rule that's being formed, and if the state doesn't want to be party to it, they can object persistently, regularly, and then it doesn't bind them. But it's not really an exception that has relevance in this context. And the short answer is customary law binds everyone. Okay. Apart from just signing up to a convention, how do you make sure that there is some compliance? This happens in different ways. Sometimes it can happen just in a bilateral way. So one state has signed, or two states have signed up to a convention. One state breaches its obligations. Another state, the party, can complain. Now that often happens through diplomatic channels. Okay, so in relation, let's take a hypothetical example. Let's say that Thailand and Myanmar were both parties to the Refugee Convention. They're not. But if there was some issue about the application of the convention in relation to refugees, that could become the subject of diplomatic protest between the two countries. Probably more important though are the mechanisms that are set up under treaties themselves. To give you an example, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The treaty itself sets up a monitoring and compliance mechanism which is a committee, a human rights committee, and it has two functions. One of them is actually just to receive reports on a regular basis about the compliance of states with the obligations they've undertaken. So yesterday there was a brochure on the table which was Cambodia's response to the CEDAW Committee. That's another convention, but that's an example. So each country had to appear before these bodies to explain their practice and be grilled or interrogated about compliance. And that's often a very effective mechanism. There's a third kind of mechanism which is also very effective, but states need to opt into it. One of the first optional protocols to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights is a mechanism that allows individuals to make complaints. Now, no states in the Greater Mekong sub-region have signed up to that protocol, but many other states in the world have, and this is what it allows you to do. If you think you have had your rights violated, and your state has signed up to the covenant and the protocol, you can bring an individual complaint to the Human Rights Committee, which is investigated, and when the committee writes a report, it doesn't have effect on its own, but it's a report to the government saying that they think the rights were or weren't violated. And then the country has to decide what action to take. Now, I have seen in Australia myself, we've had a number of complaints in Australia about human rights violations, which have resulted in changes in the law. And so it can be, because states don't like to be humiliated in an international forum, so if a prestigious body like the Human Rights Committee says that your laws breach the covenant, most good-minded states will have regard to that and change the law. So that's the mechanism. That one only works if you agree to the protocol. I think that would be a very good idea if states didn't agree to this, but of course that might be seen as quite threatening because it's individuals complaining about treatment. And your third question was about the role of NGOs. I just briefly say that some of you here will actually have had this experience. NGOs often have observed status in international fora, and they're entitled to make submissions to committees. So this process I just referred to, whereby Cambodia and other countries had to appear before the Human Rights Committee about its practices, NGOs have a right to make representation. So if the government says, the situation is this, NGOs can say, no, that's not that. This is what actually happens on the ground. So that's an important influence that they have. It's a bit like the media, exposing problems and violations so that countries can be shown for the situations that actually prevail. Okay?
Maybe your keynote this morning on the international situation that was applied to the country in particular. And my issue is particularly because the issue